Welcome to another wonderful episode of Write and Shine, Shining Through Your Words series, proudly brought to you by Write and Shine Media House. With me, one remarkable human that I've already come to respect from the second we met. Neosho, thank you
Mhm.
so much for joining me today. I really
You.
feel honored having you here. Please, can you introduce yourself and also share a bit more about what you do?
Thank you so much, Maggie. My name is Dr. Neosho Ponder. I am a Black American from Kansas City, Missouri, which is like basically smack dab in the middle of America. You fold a map in half, we're on the crease in the middle. Yeah. And but I live in Washington, D.C. And after spending Barack Obama's entire presidency in grad school, a year later, after graduating with my doctorate, I found a lump in my boob. His name was Clarence. He's officially Black History. And I wrote an
I
entire
was
book
not
about my.
expecting that.
Yes, yes. I name everything. So
Wow, I'm the
I had to know what I
same.
was fighting, Maggie. I had to know what I was fighting. And I did not like
Oh,
every kid in school that annoys everybody, name was Clarence. Like, no matter how old you are,
I
I
wanted
told
to
my
ask
dad,
you.
yeah, I told my dad about me naming my tumor. And he was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And then I told
Oh,
my biological father as well. And he was like, yeah. So it's so funny that both of my dads at the time kind of agreed with me naming my tumor Clarence.
do you know anyone in person with the name Clarence?
Yes, I have one friend. We worked together as students, at a store, a retail store, and he was still in high school. I was in college, and I've been friends with him ever since then. And his sister is my sorority sister, and he said, "Really, really, did you have to name?" And
I
I was
can
like,
imagine.
you were the first Clarence that was so just
Oh.
adorable and nice, and but yeah, other Clarences were so annoying.
Yes. Oh, that's so funny. I must say, it's so refreshing, this very, very hard topic that
Yeah.
I feel, overall, a sense of humor is like a superpower to have. And we're not saying what you went through is a laughing matter, but how you go through it is absolutely something we can be
Yes.
inspired by. And I do want to ask, Sharp, humor in your book that you've written as well, how can people apply this to the very hard topics? Exactly. And I mean, you're a survivor using that superpower.
Yes. Well, the title of my book is God's Got Jokes: How I Used My Faith and God's Humor to Survive Breast Cancer. So I wasn't necessarily the funny one in my story, in my opinion, but God knew apparently how I was able to heal, and He just kept them coming, zinger after zinger, and I've always been told that laughter is like it's like good chicken soup for the soul, and that laughter heals and things like that. And I never considered laughter healing me until I would share my story, like in between surgeries and whatnot, and people would laugh
Oh,
because, and not like in a I'm laughing at you,
yeah.
but the irony of it all. The timing of things was just perfection. And I have a lot of friends who are comedians, and I called up my favorite comedian, who's a good friend of mine named Ron G. And I asked him as I was writing, what about the structure of a joke and things that I could include in my book? And, he talked to me about how the premise, how you set it up, and
Yeah.
then how you build, and then you have that punchline, And so I started to realize as I was writing more and more that yes, God is the ultimate comedian. And for me to be here, look like this and not look like my situation, not look like what I've been through,
Wow.
you can't do anything but laugh. Like, no way. You're pulling my leg, like that. So,
I love that. And I remember, as we're talking, when I went through my divorce, someone said to me, your sense of humor will pull you through. And I thought, are you kidding me?
mm,
I,
yeah,
I thought
exactly.
I would not make it. It was so traumatizing. And,
Hmm.
so what you're saying, is it really is how we approach these struggles, these
Yeah.
Clarence moments, in our
Mhm.
lives.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I constantly reiterate how my story isn't just for cancer survivors.
Yes.
It's for anyone who's gone through hardships, who's gone through those traumatic experiences like your divorce, Maggie. And I'm so sorry it didn't work out, but I know something better
Mhm.
is for you.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I think that, we all have shit, you
Yes.
know, and I look at it as either you are going to let it tear you down or build you up in some way. And as I do these interviews, and I don't do a ton, but or even at book signings, and I've done a few like keynote speeches about my journey, I find that more and more people are like, you know what, I'm smiling through it all, I am laughing through it all, because it gives you comfort in a way.
Yes.
um I don't know when this is going to air, but we are 1 week out of a historic and somewhat traumatic presidential election here in America. And one of my good friends, my second favorite comedian, actually performed in the DC area this weekend. And I went to his show because
Wow.
I needed to laugh.
Mm.
I
Mm.
needed that escapism. I needed that, and it wasn't like I was constantly thinking about what happened several days before. It was really just taking me out of that and saying, there's still stuff in life to laugh at. And it made me feel so much better. And I think that when we take a moment to really look at things, you can't, wallowing in it will not allow you to move forward.
Yes.
So the laughter for me helped me move forward. And I've been able to move, like, unfortunately, forward was always the next surgery, then the next surgery, and then the
Yes.
next. So yeah, or the next place to live, the next place to live. But I felt like, through it all, because my faith is strong, and you can be an atheist and read this book. Don't get me wrong, because
Yes.
it is my story. I'm not talking to other people throughout my book. I'm sharing my story in hopes that it will give you some sense of understanding how my faith works, but also how God's humor worked in my life.
I love
And I'm not over here converting people either. I'm not saying you got to believe what I believe, but I do think that when you are going through anything, you have to have some sort of, you have to believe in something bigger than you.
I love that. And I couldn't agree with you more, Neosho. For me, I actually just spoke to my son before we hopped on to your interview. I just went on a project visit in Botswana. That is
Okay.
extreme poverty, extreme, but
Mhm.
spending time with those incredible souls. And listen, they're funny. I got a few marriage proposals, that I said yes to everyone, even though to be a second and a third wife, I'm in.
Sometimes you have to, like, put yourself out there and see what
That's the
happens. You never
thing.
know.
And what's incredible of them is they don't have electricity or water, but they've got this incredible sense of humor. And that's so aligned with what you say. Your circumstances don't define you. And it really is. I think the sense of humor just makes you feel human, like just,
Yes.
I don't even know how to put it into words, like just you.
Yeah. Yeah. The sense of humor definitely makes you feel human, and the tears makes you feel
Yes,
human. The fear at times, it's your flesh,
yes,
and you have to push through it. For people who believe in the Bible, and are Christians, or believe in Christianity, that's your valley moment. You're going through the valley, but the only way to get to the other side is to go through it. And that was something that my family would constantly reiterate. My family doesn't have much money, but they have prayers. Even my friends who are pretty, successful, even if they were helping me pay my bills, they still would continually pray, or send me positive thoughts, positive vibes. And I had one friend that called when she found out and just was bawling her eyes out. like I wasn't the one sick. Like she was just, and I started to comfort her,
Wow.
but that's a human
Yes.
emotion,
Yes.
so I was never offended or upset about it. It was more so like, well, in this moment, I need to comfort my friend, you know, and I appreciate when people take my book for face value. There are no hidden messages, hidden
Yes.
agendas. It really is just how I used my faith. And also, how this isn't the end of the story. I'm not employed still. I'm not full-time employed. I am, struggling, trying not to be homeless because I still have to continue to pay my rent without a job. That's God. I don't know. I mean, because I don't know how I'm still living here, but I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I am still single. Like, and it's like, yeah, and
Yes,
I
single
mean,
ladies.
at least 2 or 3 times this year, I was like, oh, this may work out. And then God is like, knock, knock. And he's ready to tell me a joke. And yeah, so
I like that.
yeah, it's one of the things that I give away when people order my book. And I hate that this is an international podcast. And I only say that because I only can ship within the continental United States.
I get it.
Um, yeah, I mean, the book's available, on Amazon, but I don't want people ordering my book from Amazon.
Mhm.
If I can get access to you, through US mail, unfortunately. And I didn't realize until I started doing podcast interviews how much of an
Yes.
inconvenience that is. But it's expensive to ship overseas, I'm not gonna lie. And
Yes.
but I do know that Amazon ships everywhere. And so it is available there, but I give away a sticker,
Oh,
and
wow.
the stickers say, and I have one on the back of my phone. It's been times where I didn't have anything, and instead of texting someone the link to order my book, there's like a sticker,
I
and
love
the sticker
that.
and the sticker says, want to hear a joke? Knock knock, and
That's
then you
so
scan it.
cute.
Yeah, so I give it, and I always say, you can stick me anywhere.
Aw.
Public bathrooms, bulletin boards, it doesn't
Yes.
matter. I have one under the peephole on my front door.
You're so creative. I love that.
Yeah. So, and again, it is it. I find that as long as I'm living, God's jokes are going to continue to propel me forward,
I
and
love
I'm okay
it.
with
It's like dad jokes, that bad dad joke
that.
sometimes. It's so funny. That
My
dry
friend
thing.
Clarence does that every week, actually. Every Friday. It's called like Funny Fridays or something, and it's like dad jokes.
That's
And
so
it's the
funny.
corniest jokes, but it makes you laugh and it gives you a pause on a
Yes.
Friday,
Yes.
when you're like in the thick of it trying to finish up the week, and then you randomly see Clarence's dad joke and you're like, that's hilarious.
I love that so much. Are you busy with your follow-up book already? Because you should
Um,
be writing more and more and more. I love the humor.
thank you. I have a title for my next book. It's not cancer related, uh, but it is about a journey, and
Amazing.
I want it to be. I think I've been praying on this, and I really want it to be an anthology. So I'm thinking of people that I would want to contribute to it. So that is something that I'm looking forward to it, but I don't like to write. People think it's weird that I wrote a dissertation, but I don't like to write because
Yes.
I'm a talker. So I would rather talk.
Storyteller. Yes.
But you gotta write something in order to have these opportunities, right? So, but yeah, I'm hoping, I've been looking for a full-time job now for gosh, a year and a half. And it's not that it's not that I don't want to work full time. It's really that I don't want to settle for something because I feel
Yeah.
like the last job I had, I kind of rushed into it a little bit. Even when I wanted to pause, they were like, well, we need to know now. And I didn't think
Yes.
about that until we separated because it wasn't a good fit. And I just don't want to rush into anything. But then, my bills are severely
Mm.
behind, so I
I
kind of
get
need to
it.
hurry up and get something. But I want to start the next book and at least writing out the what is it called? What the theme and what it's
Always,
about,
yeah, the
some sort
outline.
of synopsis. That's what I was thinking
Yes.
about, synopsis of it. I do hope to do that as soon as I, get out of some of this debt.
That's amazing. And also for everyone tuning in, from the community, if they can reach out to you directly, if they feel, they would love to join you in this, because I do, for me, immediately, my adoptive mother unfortunately passed away, from
Mm-hmm.
cancer, but it was such a traumatic time, for me as well,
Mm-hmm.
watching her. And I do think it's such a beautiful space that you're creating to say, listen, let's talk about the hardships in such a beautiful way, because it's like grief and all this stuff we
Yeah.
can, it's how we share it. It's not like we're
Mm-hmm.
laughing ha 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 at it, but it's to say, listen, these were the funny moments that we actually
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even voice in those moments. And I agree with you, God has a sense of humor, 100%.
Yeah, he does. He does. And so yeah, I haven't gotten to a space where I'm ready to share the topic of what I want to write about next, because it is a topic that you don't hear about. So I kind of want to make
Amazing.
sure that I think I'm going to revisit the author program that I was in when I wrote this book. And it's an international program, but it started here in the States at Georgetown University. And they just changed their name recently, but it's Manuscripts LLC.
Okay.
So I'll add that link to an email to you, Maggie, so that
Amazing.
you can add that. But I went through a book author program because I am neurodivergent
Yes.
and I need structure in
Mm.
order to, you know, go from start to finish. And it's I'm easily distracted. And I know that about myself. And but also the beauty in all of this is kind of what you just said though, how creative I am and how,
Yes,
I think about things. And if I was neurotypical, I don't think I would be like this. My brain would
exactly.
work like this, like the sticker
Exactly.
ID and things like that. Like people are like, who thinks of that?
I
And I had a
love
bunch of buttons
that.
that yeah, I had a bunch of old, I hate to say old, but old buttons that I didn't need anymore. And I kept a couple for keepsakes, but then the rest of them, I covered them with my stickers.
No
And
way.
I have one on the sleeve of a jacket that is really, people like it. It's a jean jacket. If you look at my website, you'll see me in it. And it has pins all over it. And then I have a patch on one sleeve
Stunning.
that says Auntie. And that patch underneath it, I put the button with my sticker on it. So
Yes.
I don't have to make buttons. I'm just like, just stick it on top of a button you don't want,
I love that.
And I have one on my backpack as well. So when I travel in the airport, because my backpack, it's a brand from my sorority sister called Because of Them We Can.
Oh,
And it
wow.
has the names of iconic civil rights and social justice leaders, and it's just their first names, which I really like. And people ask questions about my backpack, and then I
Oh,
have buttons
wow.
on it. So I have a button in the middle of my backpack that
That's
has my sticker on it. So when people are
amazing.
reading my backpack, they can scan my QR code. I could be in a security check-in line at an airport. I could be, in line at the newsstand at the airport, whatever. And I think people will randomly just scan the QR code.
I love that. And
Yeah, I'm
it's so
hoping to get that every.
creative again. Like you definitely you are in the creative arena out there. I love that. And I do
Thank
want
you.
to ask you, for anyone that tuned in that's feeling down, that got bad
Hmm.
news, that's feeling almost drowning in their circumstances, what
Hmm.
advice would you give them today?
You know, I am not a clinical person to say, definitely do this, but I would say take a beat, you know, do something that's not related to your situation if you can. Talk about a subject or a topic that's not related to your situation. Um, you know, who you can call to talk to about your problem. So call the other people because you're not going to want to talk to them about your
Yes.
problems because you're going to talk about everything else. So, like, my mother is not someone I would call about my problems,
Okay.
right?
I think my
Uh,
son would say the same.
yeah, but I have friends who that's their first call.
Yes.
I know a lot of people that's their first call, but my mother, all of my parents, were my children. I've lost my biological father, and I do talk about that in the book because I lost him 2 weeks before I started chemo. But my parents, my mom and my dad, they are still here and they are a hoot. But yeah, so I'll reach out to people who I want to talk about sports, which is
Yes.
a fun topic for me, or the new, makeup line that just came out, or, or something
Okay.
that I'm interested in, but it's not my problems.
Yes.
Um, another thing is I like to people watch. So I live in one of the most visited cities in the world. So there are plenty of places for me to go and just sit and just look at people.
Love it.
And yeah, I've had moments, and even when I was going through chemo, because I would have chemo every 3 weeks, um, I would have those up weeks, where I can go do something. I would go to a museum, or I would go to the museum that I affectionately call the Blacksonian, which is the African American Museum of History and Culture,
Wow.
the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which is the
Love it.
Black Smithsonian. Um, and I would go there and eat in the cafe. I didn't walk through the museum every time because I would get winded quickly. So I would
Yes.
go to the cafe, which has amazing food. So if you ever come to Washington, D.C., you have to go to the cafe there.
I love
And
that.
I would just talk to people or just watch people. And it was fun for
I
me
love that
anyway.
you're a people watcher. I'm also the
Yes.
same. Like also, like if I could, I would sit like this and just watch
Just to
it.
see people in their elements. I used to make up stories about,
Oh wow.
families and stuff, or a man and a woman, like, okay, who's cheating on their husband or their wife, jokingly. So that kind of stuff. But if you're an introvert who doesn't want to be around people,
Yes.
doesn't get energy. So I get energy from people. I live alone. So I'll go all day and not talk, which is
Yes.
kind of weird, right? Because I like to talk. But I'll watch TV and do other things. And when someone will call me, or I will call someone, it'll be like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something, and my voice is groggy a little bit still because I hadn't talked all day.
Yes.
Um, and which is why I was trying to get tea before our
Ah, I
conversation.
get it. Yes.
I hadn't talked to anyone today, and I realized, but I did leave a voicemail for someone earlier. But
Yes.
yeah, and I so I get fuel from being around people, right? That's where I
Yes.
gain my energy. But there are some of us who, are depleted from that. So if you just want to be alone, don't be alone in your thoughts though. Be alone in
Yes.
your distraction. What is going to take your mind off of all that you're going through? It could be binging a show. And I don't try to binge the heavy stuff.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yes.
it can be cathartic. Don't get me wrong, it can be cathartic. However, binging, rewatching a show. I'm gonna tell you,
Yes.
and this is why it's hard for me to date someone who's not American. Okay. Because every night before bed, I watch The Golden Girls and Martin,
No way.
two of my favorite,
Thank you for
TV shows
being
growing
a
up.
friend.
Exactly. Yeah. And I dated a guy briefly, during the pandemic, but this was like after my treatments and everything. And he didn't understand why I would watch the same shows over and over again.
Yes.
So annoyed with that before bed. And I was like, yeah, we're not gonna make it because this is what I need, for
Yes.
me. So of course when I would stay at his house, we wouldn't do that. But if you're at my house, yeah, I need to do what is good for me and good for my
Exactly.
soul.
Exactly.
So
That
yeah,
suits you. It's I
exactly.
understand it.
Yeah, and there were just, iconic lines from those shows. And, Martin had these very classic episodes that I just crack up still. And I mean, like I said, Golden Girls was a childhood show, but Martin was on in my teens. And
Yes. Yes.
it's just hilarious still. I still watch the Cosby Show at times. It's very
Love
nostalgic,
it. Yes.
and it's a getaway. I'm a Pisces, so I'm a dreamer. So it's easy for me just to go off in another land a little bit. And sometimes it provides clarity.
Of
And that's really what I
course.
was getting to with, when you're in those dark spaces, do something different,
Yes.
watch something different, listen to something different. One of my favorite things to listen to, sometimes I'll say, Alexa, play the Bridgerton soundtrack. And she'll
Love
start
it.
playing it. And I love the Bridgerton soundtrack or Queen Charlotte soundtrack.
Yes.
So I just think that you have to know yourself,
Yes.
know what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Agreed.
Sometimes I can't there are some people, even in my own family, and I have three sides of family, and I'm close to all three sides, but there are some people I can't talk to just because I don't want to hear negativity.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not right with my spirit. It doesn't sit well because I
Mhm.
will definitely shoulder all your problems and help you fix them. And that's draining for someone like me. But
Yes.
because I'm a fix it person, I'm
Wow.
not a person just internalizing it and that's it. No, I'm thinking about ways to fix it.
Yes, yes, yes. A doer.
So, so yeah, I know that was a lot to answer that one question, but
No, I love that so much. And I have to ask you, you said you don't like writing. The whole writing journey with your book, did you feel, it's therapeutic? What did you experience when you decided to pick up that pen to write it?
I'm gonna be honest with you. So
Please
I
be.
found out about the book program from somebody on Twitter.
Okay.
And it's gonna always be Twitter to me, just so you know.
Yes.
Um, but I did learn about the book program through a gentleman on Twitter. He literally asked if he could DM me, and I was like, "Oh God, this guy's hitting on me." But no, he was legit, and we're actually friends. And he started the program and never finished. And I was applying for jobs crazily because, again, my unemployment was running out. I, I just was really struggling.
Yes.
I feel like I'm always struggling in some way, but talking to him, he told me about this book program. By February, God started telling me,
Wow.
stop applying for jobs and write your book.
Wow.
And I was like, but God, I gotta get a job because I got these bills. And he was like, what'd I say? Stop applying for jobs and write your now I still was applying for jobs because
Yes.
we all could be hard-headed at times and rebellious um I was applying for jobs that people were like, all you gotta do is send your resume and it's yours. And I still
Wow.
wasn't getting them.
Wow.
So that was another joke from God. And by the end of March, early April that year, there was a program that was coming out in DC that helped people with their rent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it would pay your rent for 3 months. So the 3 months that the program paid my rent, I didn't teach because I'm an adjunct professor. And I finished the manuscript of my book during that
That's
3 months.
incredible.
And he told me, he said, I got you. Just write your book. Don't worry about it. Write your book.
Wow.
And he makes a way. And I only can speak for Neosho Ponder. He makes a way for me. And I don't think that I'm special. I don't think that, me being in this book author program, because there was less than 1,000 people who had gone through the program when I did. Now it's a lot of people
Yes.
gone through the program. But this was 2021. We're still kind of in lockdown, trying to come out, but still not out of the pandemic. So
Yes.
he told me, write your book. And that's what I did.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, so it wasn't what I loved about the program for me was the structure and
Yes.
not rigid, the structure that was based on what I needed, and they provide you with editors and they provide you with a community, even a platform that's the actual community of other authors
Yes.
that's writing their books at the same time. So you can do writing sessions with people and you have coaches.
Amazing.
The author program was a godsend for someone like me
Mm.
because it's not that I don't have discipline, it's that the way my brain works, I can't just sit and focus on any given day.
Yes. Yes.
And yes, I'm medicated. And at the time I was still going through to therapy and everything, but that only goes but so far, And so my editor setting those hard deadlines for me, that
Yes.
helps me write.
That's good.
Now, while I was writing these stories, because that's what it starts out as individual stories, right?
Yes.
And pulling out these themes that are going to work. And as a social scientist and researcher, I love thematic analysis, and that's what I used for my dissertation, thematic analysis. And I started to see the themes
Yes.
of my book, which then became the individual chapters and whatnot.
Incredible.
And it was like it's like how you see those movies or TV shows where the person is like doing calculations in their head, but you can
Yes.
see
Yes. Yes.
That's how it started to get for me, where
Wow.
things started to clear up. Instead of it being mathematical equations that I'm not a math person and looking like a foreign language to me, it started to clear up and
Wow.
things started to make sense. Now, there were some chapters that, and I have an audiobook. I don't promote it because I can't sell it myself, unfortunately. You have to buy it from Audible. But if listening to my audiobook, I get choked up a couple of
Oh,
times, especially
wow.
talking about losing my friend and losing my biological father. So those moments, those were really hard chapters. I thought the chapter about my friend would be the last chapter I would write because I knew that chapter was going to be probably one of the hardest things I would ever do is to
Yes.
revisit that
Yes.
time. But then I felt like chapters started having babies. And so
They usually
I would
do.
write. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh man, I got to write about this piece too. So that's going to be a whole nother chapter. So after I wrote that chapter, I want to say about four more chapters came, not out of that chapter even, but my editor would read what I have and say, you know what? This is a really long chapter. I think
Yes.
this other chapter. So it started,
Wow.
having babies, but that was the hardest. And my friend's death, and he was the only person that took me in when I was homeless. Uh, it happened. I was writing during a television show, which was a series finale,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it was the the subject matter was related to my friend's death, and I'm watching it, and that's where catharsis comes in, right?
Yes.
Because watching that show that night helped me write that chapter.
Wow.
It's really weird, actually.
Like I
Um,
choke up, I get it, eh? And it's in those moments where you least expect it almost.
yeah, yeah, and you know, uh, he died in 2018 on my 38th birthday, and I often, and I want to say I say it in the book that it's so hard to see both of our birth dates on
Yes.
his obituary.
Oh,
That's really hard, and we were born in the same year. Um, yeah, that was really hard. And I'm always grateful to our friends who didn't
yes.
tell me for 2 days
Wow.
because it was my birthday. And they were like, don't, he said, our this one friend in particular said, do not tell Neosha. Today's her birthday.
Wow.
And I was, gosh, I think I was a month out of ICU after having back-to-back surgeries in one night. Um, and I still got on a plane and flew to a whole nother state. Now I had to be wheeled through the airport because I couldn't walk very well and I couldn't walk for a long time, but I said I wouldn't miss it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I keep saying I'm gonna travel to his gravesite one year for my birthday and do a little birthday party for myself, but he'll celebrate with me because he always did. We were friends for 9 years and every
Wow.
birthday he was there.
That's
So yeah.
amazing. What's his name?
His name was Brandon.
Brandon, beautiful name. And
Yeah.
I do believe, like I'm thinking of my nephew. We were very, very close, and he passed away during COVID.
Oh
Also,
no.
a very close bond. I believe they're still with us. I really
Oh,
do.
always. Always, always. Yeah. I find myself laughing because I could hear his voice saying, child. Now I can see it. I can hear it.
I
And
love
I laugh.
that.
And I'm like, you right. You right.
No, I love that so much. And I do want to ask you, before we end off or wrap up, if anyone is looking, watching us as we talk about our loved ones that's passed, and we are entering your program will air very soon after this. So we're
Mhm.
preparing now for Christmas. It's a sentimental time for so many of us. What
Mhm.
wisdom can you give us for this year end as we are missing loved ones like Brandon?
Mm. And by the way, for legal reasons, I couldn't put his name in my book, but you'll know the story when you read it. Um, I dedicated my book to him, so you'll see that.
Oh,
Yeah, I dedicated it to my father and both of my brothers, and Brandon.
no, I love it.
Um, geez, you know, something that death cannot take from us are our memories.
Oh,
And I'm talking on top of my head, y'all, so please give me some grace. But some and the great actor who we just lost, Tony Todd, he plays this very scary character on Final Destination. And he talks about how death comes for us all, right? Uh, I was really sad. I'm like, how we lose the election and Candyman in the same week? Anyway, so but death comes for us all, and it's up to you what you do in this life, right?
yes.
And
Mm.
with this life. And if you've lost a loved one and you know that person well enough, you should know that they wouldn't want you to wallow in it because death is coming for us all. And but death can't take those memories
Oh, I love it.
and enjoy the memories. I know some of the memories could even be difficult, but that's one of those things where you got to push through that and focus on those times of laughter,
Yes.
those times of, I remember Brandon calling me, telling me he broke his leg because he went to a trampoline park. And I'm like, you are too old and too frail and skinny to be jumping on no trampoline. He's like, child, I know I'm in this boot. I can't
So
believe I broke
funny.
my leg. Was it his leg or his foot? But I was just like, because, Brandon naturally was a thin man
Yes.
and he was old. Like, it was really funny. I'm like, you're in your 30s and he never told his age. So most of us
Yes.
didn't know. I deductive reasoning told me when I met his high school best friend, he told me what year they graduated high school, which was the same year as me. So I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
I never knew how old he was. He never wanted anybody to know.
That's
But
so sweet.
but yeah, I had to tell him, I was like, no, you don't go to a trampoline place in your 30s. You don't even work out. Like, just, so I think about stuff like that, which is hilarious. Or I think about how one summer we lost power all over the district. And he called me and I was at church with fans because no one
Yes.
had power. And he called me and I stepped out and I was like, hey, what's up? And he was like, child, I'm laying on the floor in the fetal position because it's so hot. Because he didn't have any air conditioning. And he was like, do you have power? I was like, actually, my power came back. And I was like, I'll come pick you up. And he was like,
So
I don't take
funny.
a bath. Like he was just, so I think about that, how we was so hot that summer and we didn't have power.
Yes.
I just have so many funny memories, or, even thinking about memories with my biological father, when I was a kid, because he actually, I was not expected, and he's not a kid person.
Yes.
So, we spent a lot of time playing cards, reading the dictionary, and watching TV. Like I didn't have anybody to play with because I was,
Yes.
him and my mother's only biological child. So it would be times when I would say, "Can my sister come with me?" And my sister and I have different fathers, but we have the same
Yes.
mother, and she's 13 months younger than me. So
Wow.
we're basically the same age.
Yes.
And he would let my sister come because I didn't have nobody to play with as a kid. And I just laugh about those times too, him finding out how picky a eater my sister was, and him like, oh, so you ain't gonna eat that,
It's
just think
beautiful.
about me and my sister laugh about that still today. So I say all that to say, you have those memories, you have
Yes.
those funny moments, and I don't, no matter whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I don't, I will encourage you not to be alone,
Mm.
even if you have to be alone together.
I love
And
it.
that's a very popular book somewhere. I remember reading that title. But even if you just need someone just to be in your space, but
Yes.
not engage with you, right? Just sit here. It was
Mm.
many a times where I was just sleeping from chemo because I was so exhausted. And I would sleep for days. And
Wow.
I would have friends come over, do my laundry, clean up, drop off food. I would leave my key in a rock outside my apartment at the time. Um and they would just sit there.
Amazing.
And I mean, and it was like I appreciated that because to have a presence. What
Yes.
if I fall, or what if I fall out the bed from sleeping so much, or whatever? It's just good to have a presence. So in those dark moments, sometimes a person, whoever, that other body in your space can be a light
That's
for you.
amazing. I remember my mom had a candle next to her bed. So it's
Mm.
just so incredible. She never wanted to sleep without the candle on. So speaking about the light, it makes so much sense as well. It's
I have a
beautiful.
nightlight. I have a nightlight in my bedroom and my bathroom.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And may we be lights, for other people. And speaking of
Exactly.
light, your book, how can people get your book? You said we can't order from your website.
No. If you're not in the United States, you cannot.
Yes.
Unless you're traveling here and you want to order it and I can send it to your hotel, or whatnot.
Amazing.
But payment is very difficult
Yes.
even if you're gonna be in the States. Um, but once you get here, we could figure it out possibly, especially if
Okay.
you're coming to DC. I could
Yes.
bring it to you. But this is my book. It's called
Oh,
God's Got Jokes. And
amazing.
it is on Amazon. It's also like the different bookstore websites I'm learning has it. It's available on Audible as well. I prefer to, sign them and emboss it. So
Oh,
this is an
yes.
actual signed book. And then I have my embossing at the bottom. You can't see it, but it's like raised stamp. So
Okay.
that's a personal emboss a
Beautiful.
stamp, and you get a gift from me as well
Oh,
when you order it. Well, you get two gifts now. You get a sticker
a
and you
sticker.
get a
Yes.
and you get a bookmark that I designed.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and yeah, so I will say it would be great if I could, I have a friend who is now basically he's a celebrity over there, but he lives in the UK. Him and his family, they moved from DC over there, and I really would love to go to UK one day and do a book signing,
Yes.
or something, but
Amazing.
it's really hard when you don't have a job.
Yes.
I have
Yes.
free codes for books. I have UK codes
Okay.
for audiobooks, and I have US codes for audiobooks.
Yes.
Um, so if someone emailed me, as long as I still have some, uh, I can send them the UK code if they're in the UK, or if they're in the US, I've given some away already in the US, but
Amazing.
I intended on just sending them to Paul in the UK and been like, hey, because he's now on a huge probably book tour or something. He's a what is it called? Reality show host in the
Okay.
UK, Paul
Amazing.
Brunson. He's also an amazing speaker and life coach and relationship guru and all the
Wow.
things. So he's like family.
Now that's
And
fantastic.
yeah, so that's about the closest thing I think, unless someone invited me, to another country. I'm not at that level yet to be that sought after speaker or anything, but I'd be more than happy to come. I got to renew my passport though. It did expire in September. Uh, but
Amazing.
uh, but yeah, so.
But thank you so, so, so much for joining me. And I would love to invite you back early in the next year. Please, I love your sense of humor. I love the hard topics. It's hard to talk about it, but this is exactly why I created this series, is for the behind the pages, the person
Yeah.
behind the pages. I just honor your whole journey. Thank you for being here.
I have one more thing to add, and I need to
Yes.
do a whole video about this. Maybe I'll record it today. It's so I do not. I'm not good with. I can come up with content topics, but not doing my own content. I need a producer. But yeah.
Yes.
So my book is multimedia. So something
Wow.
that like I said early on in this conversation, I earned a doctorate from Howard
Yes.
University here in DC in communication, culture, and media.
Wow.
And and then a year later I discovered Clarence.
Yes.
So what I did was I put QR codes throughout my book,
That's so
and
clever.
you only can access the QR codes through the paperback book.
Yes.
um you cannot you cannot access those pages on my website, but each chapter has its own QR code individual. By
Wow.
the way, the publisher was like, okay, you need a second round of layout because we've never had
Yes.
an author do a QR code throughout their book. Most people say they've never heard of that, but every chapter has a page and you scan the QR code and you can listen to music and see
Wow.
pictures from that chapter.
That's brilliant. That
Yeah.
is just brilliant.
Yeah. So
What?
that's another aspect of my book. So I believe that
Wow.
The maybe the ebook, I believe, would have it, but not the audiobook, unfortunately.
Yes,
It was really weird for me to say that in my author's note on the audiobook, scan the QR code. I'm like, if you get the book, I don't know what
I
to
love
say.
it.
But yeah, so it is a multimedia experience. So you
That is
actually go on the
incredible.
journey with me in this book.
What? I'm
Yeah.
actually really curious to experience that. So I will be chatting with you after our interview how I can get my hands on your book.
Okay.
But
I mean,
Neosho,
it won't be a paperback.
yes,
I'm not you personally, I'm saying it, but for others, but you can get the ebook. And
that would
I
be
know the ebook
amazing.
has the QR codes there. Yeah.
I would love to experience that. But thank you so, so much for joining me today. I
Welcome.
do hope you will join me again in the near future.
Yeah,
And
that'll be great.
fantastic. Thank you for blessing us with your incredible sense of humor. Also, what I love about you is your honesty and integrity and sharing the hardships, in a very different perspective. It is all of us go through our shit, like you said.
Y'all
You
got
can't get
shit.
around it. I've never used this
Right.
word on the program, so there
Y'all
you
got shit.
go.
Because
But
you really think this is some BS that I'm going through right now. But we
exactly.
all have it.
We
Yeah.
really do. We really, and it's, some of it, it's like the storms as well, the BS storms that you have to navigate through. And it really is, and also what I love about what you said is, don't ignore people that's going through that. They're still human.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
treat them as if they just, they're still human. Be behind the
Mhm.
labels, behind all of the stuff they're going through. There's someone with a sense of humor, someone that's going through sadness, grief, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So just thank you so much for the wonderful reminder. And I do
Thank
agree
you.
with you. God has a wonderful sense of humor.
Yes, he does. Sometimes you mad about it, but then later you're gonna laugh.
You're
You
gonna
will.
laugh. For all of you tuning in with this incredible guest today, thank you for just joining us in this conversation and be reminded that you too can really navigate your hardships through a sense of humor. We're not saying laugh at what you're going through, but see the lighter side of things as well in that, especially as we are nearing the end of 2024. My prayer is
Mhm.
really that you could see the beauty in the little things as well, the laughter, the belly laughter, I hope, during the year that you had. That's the best type of that snort laugh.
Yeah.
I
That
do
teary
hope.
laugh.
Exactly, that you can't stop. And that's what I really hope for you. Thank you again, Dr. Ponder, for joining us and all of you that joined us today. Keep on writing and keep on shining.
Just watch me shine.